There are Trump trolls out there, and probably trolls from foreign governments trying to pretend that they're Bernie trolls trying to trash Joe Biden. Check this out. Leave your comments, ding the bell, share it with your friends, and subscribe to our channel. It's your Alexis in Brookline, Massachusetts. Hey, Alexis, what's on your mind today?
Hi, Tom. First of all, I wanted to thank you for taking up so fast as a Jew. That's very, very kind of you, because certainly online that's not always the case. I wanted to talk to you today about what I'm kind of seeing as an alt-left pipeline going on, where left spaces that I had become involved with through the Bernie Sanders campaign and being very excited for him have now become anti-Biden instead of anti-Trump, and they never talk about Trump. And these are very popular, very major online, news sources and YouTube channels. And I'm afraid that Republicans and, the Russians are possibly using these as a way to cause more division on the left. And could we have another 2016 on our hands?
Yeah, we could. And there's a couple of points here that I think need to be made, Alexis, and you raised a really important issue. The first is that whenever a political party basically settles on their new candidate, you're going to have some people in that party who are unhappy, and they're going to express their displeasure. And typically that goes on for a few months, and then they either get with the program or they just kind of fade in the background, and they end up being the people who don't show up to vote. We saw a lot of that in 2016 with people who were not happy with Hillary. Basically, they split into two groups. The much larger group were former supporters of largely Bernie Sanders who decided to vote for Hillary, and many of them actually actively campaigned for Hillary. I was in that camp. And then there was a group of people who said, screw it, and they voted for Jill Stein, or they just didn't bother to vote. On the Republican side, you had the exact same thing. You had a lot of people who were, big supporters of Jeb Bush or Marco Rubio or, any of the more credible candidates and some of the fringe candidates, like Newt Gingrich. And when Donald Trump got the nomination, some of them became never Trumpers, and some of them became, and a lot of them just, no big deal. They didn't bother to show up. Keep in mind, Trump lost the election by 3 million votes. And that's certainly going to happen the next time. It's going to be chosen, the election will be decided in the Electoral College. So that's just normal. That has happened in every election cycle going back probably to John Adams. But the thing that's abnormal, and that I've been noticing also on my Twitter feed and on our Facebook feed, are these accounts. In many cases, when you go back and you look at the account, you see that it was either opened before the last election, the 2016 election, and may have a few hundred followers and a couple thousand posts, and most of those were back in 2016, and now it's been reactivated. Or it's a brand new account that has, that follows 25 people and has 3 followers. And, it was just put into commission in the last 3 or 4 months. And these are, by and large, bots. They're either bots that are being paid for by the Trump campaign or by people associated with the Trump campaign, or they're bots being paid for by foreign governments. We learned from Seth Abramson's brilliant book that in the 2016 election, you had bots from Israel, you had bots from Russia, you had bots from Saudi Arabia, and you had bots out of China. They were very much in the minority, but you had bots in a big way from 3 major countries who were interfering in our election in 2016. Russia by far and away the most bots from the Internet Research Bureau, and that's who got busted by Obama. And in the process of trying to track them down and figuring out how they were involving themselves in our election and tapping into our election computers and things like that. They came across Mike Flynn. So, which Trump is trying to turn into a scandal. So the bots are something relatively new, but they were very successful in 2016. It's going to be real interesting, Alexis, to see this time around how successful they are, because a lot of us have gotten wise to them. I, routinely 2-3 times a day on my Twitter feed, I'm simply blocking people. I have no tolerance for these bots anymore. Occasionally it's obvious it's a real person who's a real conservative, and you go back and they're big Trump supporters. They got all this MAGA stuff. I just leave them alone because people can argue with them. They're actual real people. But these bots have, they're run on artificial intelligence protocols that are kind of like the old ELIZA program from the 1980s, This little basic routine where you say this and they'll say that, and they'll take one word out of what you said so it looks like it's a dialogue, but you're actually talking to a computer. And it's better just to block them and do away with them. But the other sad fact is that you've got Joe Biden still, the Biden campaign and the Democrats and the media are all still talking about Joe Biden, quote, in his basement. They need to strip that language out of their vocabulary. In his basement sounds like a guy who's hiding. He needs to stop talking about his friggin' basement. And so do all the Democrats. We need to see the rest of his house. He needs to be in his backyard. He needs to be out front. He needs to do some events if he possibly can. Donald Trump is out there every single day looking like, hale and hearty and presidential and all this kind of stuff. And Joe Biden needs to be doing the same. And he needs to announce his vice presidential candidate so we get a sense of which direction the campaign's going to go and who's going to probably be our president in 2024. So, there's a lot that needs to be done, and I don't mean this critically of Joe Biden. I want Joe Biden to win. I'm very, very concerned that if Donald Trump gets reelected, that's the end of democracy in America. Bill Barr will shut things down. All these right-wingers he's put on the courts will totally back him, and we're going to be we're going to be where Germany was in 1936, and that's not a good place. Or maybe where, let's say, because I'm not anticipating final solution stuff, although we do have tens of thousands of people right now in concentration camps, including concentration camps for children that are still running. So anything's possible, I suppose, but probably more like Mussolini or Franco in Spain, that kind of thing. But this is really concerning, and it's what we've got to do. Alexis, thank you for the call. It's an important one.